Tell me if it starts to hurt, the dentist says before reaching into your mouth with a pair of orthodontic pliers and starting to pull your front teeth back into place. Evidently, your screams aren't enough of an indication of the extreme pain you feel because he doesn't stop pulling. After what feels like hours of excruciating oral surgery, you're finally standing outside the dentist's office texting with a friend. Come on, show me. It can't be that bad, reads the message from your friend. You're nervous to send her a picture, though, since you have a small crush on the girl and you don't want her to see you in this state. But after she asks you again, you decide to take a quick selfie and send it to her anyway. You snap a photo of your mangled mouth and jaw. The mess of wires had to be hastily applied to move your remaining crooked teeth back into place with globs of fast-hardening epoxy, and the result looks like a low-budget horror movie prosthetic. You send the message and wait. You watch the dots appear that indicate she's writing a response, then watch as they disappear without a reply. You sadly slip the phone back into your pocket and begin walking away. As you make your way home with your head hung in shame, you keep your mouth shut tight. You don't want any passers-by to see what you've become. You decide to detour through the park to avoid any people as much as possible, and as you walk, you decide to stop at a picnic table next to a small pond. You sit at the table and watch the ducks mill about in the water. They have it so lucky, you think. Ducks never have to worry about their teeth getting knocked out by a baseball and leaving them looking like a monster. The ducks suddenly all start moving away from your side of the pond, eventually taking flight and leaving completely. You get the sense that they're trying to get away from something, and you turn around, but there's nothing behind you. Oh, it must be me, you think. But then you get the sense that there is something behind you, and turn again. Still though, there's nothing. It's just you, the picnic table, and the empty pond. You turn back to watch the still water, but you can't shake the feeling that there's someone behind you, and turn again. Hello? Is anyone there? You ask, but no one answers. You turn back to the pond and you scream in fright at the thing standing before you and fall back off the picnic table. You get up out of the dirt and you don't wait to stick around to see who or what this thing is. You start to run as fast as you can, but you immediately hear it chasing after you. Instinctually, you take out your phone and start trying to take pictures of whatever it is that's behind you. You know no one will ever believe you, and you want some evidence of this thing. You manage to snap off a couple of pictures, but you can hear the creature gaining on you. You scream as your mouth begins to ache. Perhaps running this soon after your surgery is causing your damaged teeth to shift, and the pain is intense. It starts to feel like your mouth is full of jagged rocks, but you can feel that it is your teeth pushing out and stabbing into your mouth. You take one last picture before the creature leaps on you, sending you both to the ground, and your phone tumbling into the dirt. Early the next morning, a police perimeter has been set up in the park. The detective arrives and walks past the traumatized-looking jogger who must have been the one that discovered the grisly scene. An officer guarding the site lifts up the police tape so the detective can enter the crime scene that surrounds a body lying under a white sheet. The detective asks the officer if they've found anything yet, and the officer hands the detective a plastic bag containing a dirty cell phone. The detective puts on a latex glove and removes the phone from the bag. The screen is cracked, but it still works. There's numerous messages on the screen that look like they're from someone trying to apologize for not responding sooner, and asking where the phone's owner is and if they're mad at her. The detective opens the phone's camera app and starts looking at the last photos that were taken. It's a strange series of pictures. They seem to all be selfies that a young man was taking as he ran through the park. It almost appears as though there's a figure behind him, but it's hard to tell. There's a foggy white vignette on the pictures that gets worse the further he looks, slowly closing in until the last photo is nothing but a blurred milky white screen. The detective flips the phone over and looks at the lens, which you can see is completely covered in a hard white substance. The detective places the phone back in the evidence bag and kneels down next to the body. The police officer turns away. He's already seen the victim and doesn't need to again. The detective pulls down the sheet to reveal a truly shocking sight. The boy's mouth is a mess of teeth, far, far too many teeth. There are teeth growing out of every part of his gums at horrible angles, filling his mouth and jutting out at painfully odd angles. Who could have done this? What could have done this? The local police department may not have had any idea what the state of this victim meant, but the SCP Foundation did, because they had seen the same occurrence dozens of times before. In fact, they had seen it happen so many times that they had classified this anomalous entity as SCP-913, but it had already earned a much more ominous nickname within the Foundation. It was known as the Grinner. Very little is known about SCP-4910, and eyewitness accounts of the creature are all extremely brief due to those who have interacted with it quickly succumbing to its effects. What is known is that SCP-4910 is a quadruped and appears to be made partially, or perhaps entirely, out of teeth. Those who encounter SCP-4910 quickly experience its primary anomalous effect, which is that it causes the extremely rapid overproduction of teeth in its victims' mouths. Existing teeth will quickly increase in size, protruding farther out of the gums than should be able, while new teeth will begin to sprout from any available space in the mouth, including the roof of the mouth and underneath the tongue. These new teeth will completely fill the mouth, which almost immediately inhibits their ability to speak or vocalize at all. The creature will then use this opportunity to attack and incapacitate the victim before starting to feed. Further adding to the mystery of SCP-4910's appearance comes from the effect it has on any nearby recording equipment. Cameras and other devices that come within SCP-4910's proximity will have their critical components compromised by a sudden appearance of a layer of dentin, which is the calcified material that partially makes up teeth. Interestingly, SCP-4910 seems to possess some level of intelligence, as it appears able to differentiate between normal civilians, who it hunts for sustenance, and members of organizations that seek to hunt down and contain or harm it, which it uses for an even more nefarious purpose. While the exact mechanics are still unclear, it seems as though SCP-4910 is able to infect certain anomalous organization members with its ability, causing them to act as a vector for the effect, who then spread it to even more victims. This effect is, of course, of great concern to the Foundation, and containment protocols for infected victims have been hastily put into place. Should a member of staff begin bearing a grin with too many teeth or multiple tooth-filled smiles, they are to be immediately immobilized by any means necessary, though preferably with a firearm that allows one to keep an appropriate distance and hopefully prevent any further spread of the effect. The infected individual is then to be doused in a hydrochloric chemical compound that will reduce the afflicted to a pulp-like substance. Once this pulp is no longer animate, it can be transferred to the closest incineration site for disposal. Should a member of personnel have an interaction with SCP-4910 and feel that they were exposed to its anomalous effects, they may be saved by taking immediate medical action. Oral surgery to remove the additional teeth has been found to be effective when the procedure is undergone in the first 1 to 2 hours following exposure, though the victim will suffer lifelong permanent physical issues from the procedure. Once 3 hours have passed, the effect will have spread to the rest of the body, with teeth appearing virtually anywhere. Unfortunately for the victim, should the infection reach this point, pain management has been shown to be ineffective, and there is nothing that can be done to alleviate their suffering, save for termination. SCP-4910 remains at large and has been given the Keter classification. Mobile Task Force Epsilon, codenamed Turfing Black, is the only MTF authorized to respond to sightings, and they have been given permission to engage the creature and utilize lethal force if necessary, due to the danger this anomaly presents specifically to the SCP Foundation. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like SCP-745, the Headlights, for another predatory creature with a very unique hunting method. And make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single anomaly, as we delve further and further into the SCP Foundation's classified archives.
In blissful sleep, blood begins to leak out of the woman's mouth. Her teeth, they're moving, slithering out of the holes in her gums. Is something pulling them out, or are they just breaking free? It was supposed to be a sunny Saturday afternoon, warm and mild, without so much as a cloud in the sky. Instead, a storm rolled in, turning the sky gray and thick with dark clouds that drenched the town in a torrent of rain. So the young woman had to scrap her beach plans, and now she's driving through the rain, looking for a way to salvage her day out. What's a good indoor activity? She could go to the library, pick out a book to read, but she can do that any day. This was supposed to be a special day, a little treat after a particularly stressful week at work. As if to answer her silent plea for a rainy day activity, she spots the marquee on the neighborhood movie theater, a special screening of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Not only is catching a movie the perfect way to wait out the rain, they just so happen to be screening one of her childhood favorites. A warm rush of nostalgia washes over her, and she pulls into the parking lot. The screening starts at 2 o'clock, and right now it's 1:50. Perfect. things are definitely looking up. She parks her car and pushes open the door to the theater. When she crosses the threshold, she's transported from the dreary, rainy day outside to a paradise of sweet treats. The theater went all out with their decorations for the special screening, and it really shows. Massive rainbow lollipops brush the ceiling. There's a balloon arch made to look like it's made of gobstoppers, and they've put up a chocolate fountain next to the popcorn machine. Of course they would have chocolate. What kind of Willy Wonka event leaves out the chocolate? The woman steps up to the counter, where a cheerful worker dressed as an Oompa Loompa greets her. She's already here. Why not treat herself a little bit? She purchases a ticket, along with some popcorn, some jelly beans, a large lemonade, and a big bar of chocolate. The day is really starting to turn around. The movie is just as delightful as she remembered, a mix of whimsy and dark comedy, and the accompanying treats make it even better. As she picks a bit of jelly bean out of her teeth, she feels a slight twinge, a dull ache. Better remember to floss later. She really doesn't need a cavity right now. After the movie concludes, she tosses the remains of her cinematic feast into the garbage and heads home. The rain has stopped, and the sun is peeking out from between the clouds again. It was a lovely afternoon at the movies, the perfect way to save the day from being ruined by the storm. The woman doesn't think about it much more than that for the rest of the weekend, but when she wakes up on Monday morning, something feels off. The toothache she felt a twinge of at the movie theater has gotten worse. By the middle of the week, at least 6 of her teeth are throbbing constantly. Pain medication helps reduce the pain a bit, but the feeling of pressure inside the teeth persists and is distractingly uncomfortable. She calls her dentist to make an appointment, but they can't see her until next week. For now, she'll just have to deal with it, no matter how terrible it feels. The rest of the week passes in a blur of dental distress, and on Friday night, as she brushes her aching teeth, the woman notices something troubling. One of her front canines looks cracked. How did she break it? She hasn't eaten anything hard this week. She's been treating her teeth with the utmost care. But a closer inspection reveals that, indeed, the enamel is cracked. It doesn't look like she broke the tooth from the outside, but like something is pushing out from the inside. She shudders and reminds herself that the dentist will be able to take care of it on Monday. She just has to make it through the weekend, and everything will be fine. At some point during the process of ruminating on the troubles with her teeth, she falls into a restless sleep. The next morning, she wakes up in a state of surprising relief. The pain is gone. She sits up in bed, stretches, and yawns. She catches a glimpse of herself in the mirror across from her bed as she does, and freezes in place. The reason she can't feel her tooth pain anymore is because her teeth are gone. Not all of them, but 6 teeth, the teeth that were aching all week, have vanished. Did they fall out in her sleep? She strips the sheets off her bed, shaking them out, searching for any sign of the missing teeth. Nothing. She feels like she's losing her mind. Teeth can't just up and vanish like that. But where could they have gone? Did she swallow them? Her mind races as she struggles to explain the unexplainable. Wait a minute. She can find out exactly what happened the previous night. She has a security camera installed in her room. She'd almost forgotten about the camera, which had been installed a year prior when an old roommate kept borrowing her clothes without asking. She never bothered to get rid of it. With a rush of gratitude for her past self, she pulls up the app on her phone that logs the footage and selects the folder for the previous night. She scans through the footage, seeing several hours of her sleeping body tossing and turning in bed. Then, in the video, her mouth opens. She watches carefully, her eyes widening, as she struggles to process what comes next. On her phone screen, clear as can be, she can see teeth climbing out of her mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, crawling across her face, down her neck, across the bedspread, and onto her bedside table. That would have been enough to leave her questioning everything she thought she knew about the world, but the video keeps playing. The teeth scuttle around her bedside table, then onto her desk, collecting paper clips, a hair tie, some brightly colored post-it notes, a safety pin, a scrap of string, and a barrette. With their chosen items in tow, the teeth crawl down off of the desk, over the carpet, and out of her bedroom door. How are they getting around? They're walking on what look like little tendrils, but she can't figure out where they came from. Little tendrils poking through the cracks in the teeth? She shudders at the thought. While she slept, her teeth came to life and made a break for it? Where did they go from there? Could they still be in her apartment? She shakily opens the door to her room and peeks out. She half expects to see the teeth still in the hallway, but when she checks, there's nothing there. She combs every inch of her apartment next. She isn't sure what she'll do if she finds the teeth, the creatures they've become. Maybe try to capture them and take them to the dentist? But it doesn't matter. Her search is useless. They're long gone. The only evidence they were ever even there is a light speckle of blood on her pillowcase, the sheet, and across the carpet. It's such a small amount, she'd never even know it was there if she weren't looking for it. But now what? She's sitting here with 6 missing teeth, no idea where they went, and no clue what to do next. How could she begin to explain any of this to anyone? She can't, she realizes. So, after taking a moment to weigh her options, she deletes the security footage and leaves a voicemail for her dentist, telling them it's an emergency. She lost some teeth in an accident, she tells them. As for the truth, nobody ever needs to know. She wouldn't even know where to start if she decided to try and tell anyone what happened. Better to just put it out of her mind, get her teeth fixed, and try to move on. Later that night, back at the movie theater, the Oompa Loompa from the concession stand is tidying up in the hours after her shift. The limited run of Willy Wonka special screenings is over, and it's time to put all of the Candy Factory decor back in its respective boxes and switch off the chocolate fountain. She breaks down the giant prop lollipops, deflates the jelly bean balloons, and cleans up the chocolate that spilled onto the counter. Might as well sneak a bit of candy for herself in the process, and use the sugar rush to make the work go faster. It helps a bit, but there's still a lot to do for one employee at this understaffed theater. By the time she's finished, it's dark outside. Time to pack up her things, scrub off that orange face paint, and head home. As she walks through the back door, a shiver runs down her spine. What's that sound? It sounds like scratching and scrabbling inside the wall behind her. She turns, looking for an animal hiding there, but she can't see anything. Maybe it's a mouse? But just as she's about to turn around and head to her car, she sees a flash of light glinting off of something shiny. Metal? All the while, the noise continues, that strange scratching and scrabbling. What the hell is going on over there? There's some sort of unknown thing in the walls of the theater, or between the walls of the two buildings at least. Her curiosity gets the better of her, and she finds herself giving into it. Whatever's in there, she needs to see what it could possibly be. She tiptoes over to the crevice between the theater and the building next door to it, and peers into the darkness. She can't quite make out what she sees in there, but there's some kind of shape, like a little box, and she can see movement within the shadows there. What is that? She pulls out her phone and is just about to activate the flashlight function when suddenly the crevice lights up in the glow of tiny spotlights? No, miniature flashlights, like the kind you put on a keychain. They're lined up in a row and all switched on at once to illuminate the structure in front of them. Now she can see what it is, but getting a good look at it doesn't make her any less confused. If anything, it's only more baffling than it was before. The structure is visible now, a twisting mass of nerves and blood vessels wrapped and braided together to form a platform. If she didn't know any better, she'd say it looks like a stage? Yeah, it looks like a stage. And on that stage, constructed from a mixture of trash, string, fabric scraps, buttons, and other random objects, is a set. Paperclips stand tall with colorful buttons attached to the tips of them. At first glance, they resemble the giant lollipops that the movie theater put up for the screenings. And there, in the center of the stage, a long piece of brown ribbon is stretched out to mimic the chocolate river from the movie. A boat made from tinfoil and more of those nerves and blood vessels navigates the chocolate river. The employee was so taken aback by the sight of the makeshift set and stage that she didn't even notice the actors on the stage. When she does, she covers her mouth to stifle a scream. The stage and the set are absolutely covered in human teeth, moving around and putting on a production. On the boat, a tooth dressed in a purple jacket and orange top hat guides a tour group made up of other teeth dressed as the children and guardians from Willy Wonka. She opens the camera app on her phone, focuses it on the bizarre play unfolding in front of her, and begins to record. Otherwise, no one will ever believe what she saw here. Then, unable to do anything else, she watches the show. One tooth, a particularly rotund one, is sucked into a pipe out of the chocolate river with the help of practical effects from the nerves. the employee finds herself sitting on the ground, continuing to record the show. She laughs out loud at the sight of a tooth emerging from backstage, painted blue and wrapped in blue fabric to make it look larger and rounder. No, not blue. Violet. It's turning violet. Next, a tooth shrinks, exiting the stage and leaving behind a tiny fake tooth in its place. In between each transformation, another child leaving the chocolate factory tour, a group of orange-painted teeth comes out to perform a dance number. At first, the employee expects them to sing songs of disapproval too, but realizes quickly that these teeth don't have mouths of their own, and therefore can't sing. Still, it's all quite impressive. For the fizzy lifting drink scene, the teeth playing Charlie and Grandpa Joe are lifted up into the air by nerve tendrils, approaching a fan made from safety pins and aluminum foil. It's actually quite tense to watch, and if the employee had an actual seat, she'd be on the edge of it. Then, the show concludes, and an audience full of teeth that she couldn't see before stand up, clapping their tendrils together in a thunderous round of applause. It's the most bizarre thing she's ever seen in her life, but she can't deny that it was entertaining. The teeth then begin to clean up the set, striking pieces and tucking them away in the darkness. Once the set has been broken down, they all scuttle out of sight. And it's over. The employee drives home in a state of shock, uncertain about what to do next. She eventually decides to upload the video footage to the internet, titling the video, "Willy Wonka Performed by Teeth?" By the following day, it has a few thousand views and some skeptical comments. By the day after that, it has a copyright strike and has been removed from the internet. So much for getting the word out about the teeth. The employee never forgets about them, but she gives up on trying to tell people about what she saw. That tooth-based theatrical production is just for her memories now. Meanwhile, local dentists are noticing a pattern. Everyone who attended the screenings of Willy Wonka at that specific movie theater experienced dental issues, followed by sudden, unexplained tooth loss. It's such a concerning trend, it attracts the attention of the SCP Foundation, who began a thorough investigation. After some time looking into it, they designate the phenomenon SCP-3827. SCP-3827 is a cognitohazardous phenomenon that is known to affect certain movie theaters across the United States. Audience members at theaters impacted by SCP-3827 will later report statistically unusual rates of dental problems, including but not limited to gingivitis, pulpitis, and degradation of the dental enamel. It is unknown what exactly causes a theater to be subject to the influence of SCP-3827, but the effects of the anomaly can be exacerbated by the consumption of high-sugar concessions by moviegoers, by screenings of films that prominently feature teeth in at least one scene, or a combination of the two. If it were as simple as just an increase in dental problems, the anomaly might not warrant much Foundation attention. Just an increase of fluoride in the local water supply and perhaps an alert to dentists in the surrounding area. However, it does not begin and stop at dental pain and discomfort. The living centers, or pulps, of affected teeth, referred to from now on as SCP-3827-A, will begin to noticeably change over the course of a week following exposure to the cognitohazard. They will grow and expand to the point of pain, causing the enamel of the affected teeth to crack and split from the internal pressure. After approximately a week has passed, the SCP-3827-A instances will eject themselves from the jaws of the affected person while they sleep. Once freed from the jaw, these teeth will push portions of their nerves and blood vessels through the cracks in the enamel, using them as limbs. Now capable of independent movement, the teeth will move themselves around the area, stealing small items such as loose trash, scraps of fabric, buttons, and pins. Once they have grabbed an object of interest, the teeth will attempt to leave the area. Sometimes the teeth are stopped by witnesses, a misplaced step, or a house pet, but frequently they make it out of the house and reach their intended destination. But where do they go next? Naturally, Foundation researchers were curious about the movements of SCP-3827-A instances, so one affected moviegoer was fitted with miniature tracking devices during a dental checkup at a Foundation-affiliated office. Later that night, when the teeth ejected themselves from the person's mouth, the Foundation was able to track them. The research team followed the tracking device's signal back to the movie theater where these SCP-3827 effects originated, where the affected individual had seen a screening of the then-recent film Life of Pi. The researcher who was tracking the signal followed it all the way to a small crevice in the concrete outside of the theater. He pulled a flashlight from his pocket and cast its light into the crevice. There, he spotted a structure resembling a small theater composed of chips of what appeared to be tooth enamel. On the makeshift stage, several dozen instances of SCP-3827-A were putting on a performance. From the animal costumes and the set piece of a boat constructed from aluminum foil, the agent was able to determine that the living teeth were performing their version of the events of Life of Pi. He stood there for the next hour, allowing them to finish their performance before collecting the instances and bringing them into Foundation containment. Notably, after some time in containment, the teeth began putting on original productions, in addition to live stagings of their favorite films. One original production was described by a research assistant as Star Wars, but with werewolves in it. He added that it was quite moving, actually. I cried. After SCP-3827 was identified and the Foundation was able to properly understand its nature, a set of containment procedures were put into place. Foundation agents embedded within the film industry have been instructed to introduce scenes and motifs involving teeth into films by major studios, particularly those belonging to especially successful franchises. This is intended to root out, no pun intended, theaters affected by SCP-3827. These theaters can then be closed down, the SCP-3827-A instances contained, and any affected individuals can be anesthetized. Contained instances of SCP-3827-A are kept in standard containment cells. As an incentive for good behavior, they are gifted with spare scraps of trash and may be shown a screening of a new film once a month. An addendum has been added to the official file, which I will include here for reference. Following successful Foundation interference with the production of the 2015 film Avengers: Age of Ultron, namely the inclusion of a short sequence depicting the character Iron Man knocking a tooth loose from the Hulk, Foundation agents managed to identify and close down 119 theaters affected by SCP-3827. Despite no new instances having been discovered since, current procedures are to continue until further notice. We go to movie theaters for magic, to laugh, to cry, to care. In my personal opinion, the movies are a sacred place, one where we shouldn't have to worry about our teeth jumping out of our skulls and running off to start a theater troupe. But in this world, things don't always go as planned. Hopefully, all of the theaters affected by SCP-3827 have been shut down for good, but you never know for sure. Sometimes, a film brings out emotions in you that you never expected. And sometimes, it brings out your teeth, too. You open your eyes, only to find something blocking your vision. Are those teeth? Human teeth? Growing out of your eyes? Oh no. Oh God, no. Taking the subway can be a real hit-or-miss experience. On one hand, it's cheaper than driving, especially with gas prices these days. It's convenient, eco-friendly, and removes any potential stress about where to park. But it can also be hot, poorly maintained, and worst of all, it's filled with the public. These are the thoughts running through the woman's head as she stands on the subway on the way home from work. She holds onto a nearby pole for balance, struggling to maintain a bubble of personal space as a steady stream of new passengers climb on at each stop. She can feel her chest tightening with anxiety, and she takes a deep breath to loosen the stress. Just a couple more stops to go, and then she can get out of here and retreat to the comfort of her apartment. The train car slows down, and the doors open for the penultimate stop. Great! After this one, she'll be home free. Of course, more people climb on. Everybody has places to go, she reminds herself. It's fine. But as one pale, jumpy-looking man crowds a little bit too close to the pole she's holding, she feels her anxiety levels spike again. Why won't he just respect her personal space? Come on, buddy. It's a crowded train, but there's enough room to take a step back. She's working up the nerve to say something when the train jerks suddenly, starting back up. The sharp motion sends the man rocking forward, and he bumps into her, hard. She feels a sudden sharp pain in her hand and looks down to see a speck of blood. Seriously? She swears at the strange man, unable to help herself. He glances down, and his eyes widen. He apologizes profusely and backs away from her, unmistakable terror in his eyes. A bit of an overreaction, she thinks. She just yelled a bit. It isn't as if she was going to hurt him. But he pushes through the crowd, moving away from her, and she doesn't care to follow. The train slows, and the doors slide open again. Thank goodness, her stop. She shoves her way out of the train car as fast as she can, and doesn't slow down until she's unlocking the door to her apartment. Time to tend to the weirdest injury she's ever gotten. She disinfects the wound on her hand and begins to apply a bandage. Now that she's slowed down, she can get a better look at it. She had assumed the guy's keys had poked her or something, but now, examining it more carefully, it looks kind of like a bite? Did he have some kind of animal up his sleeve or something? It all happened so fast, she couldn't really tell. Better to be safe than sorry. She'll go get a rabies vaccine tomorrow. With that plan in place and a bandage applied to her hand, she quickly forgets about the hellish subway ride, the nervous man, and the strange bite. The next day, she gets her rabies shot and puts the whole bizarre encounter out of her mind for good. And it stays there, out of sight and out of mind. Until about a week later, when her gums begin to ache. It starts with a twinge, a bit of discomfort one morning that wakes her up before her alarm. But as the day goes on, the ache grows more and more difficult to ignore. She finds herself chewing on her pen during meetings, alleviating the itching, painful feeling in her gums with the pressure of it. A few days later, it's all she can think about. She half considers picking up one of those hard plastic rings for teething babies. At that point, she realizes it's time to go to the dentist. They'll know what to do. But when the dentist leans her back in that adjustable chair and peers into her mouth, he is just as clueless as she is, perhaps even more so. She's presenting symptoms of a condition known as hyperdontia, he explains. She is, at the age of 30 years old, growing new teeth. Not wisdom teeth that are coming in, but a whole new row of teeth just behind the ones she already has. He advises her to come back in once the teeth have grown in all the way, and they can discuss next steps then. She calls in sick to work the next day. She lies and tells them it's the flu. How could she explain the truth? But at least there's a solution in sight. The dentist will help her figure out what to do next. And surely this will be the worst of it, right? Unfortunately, she couldn't be more wrong. When she wakes up the next day, she notices some difficulty breathing through her nose, accompanied by a feeling of discomfort in her nostrils. Oh great, is she actually sick now? She goes to blow her nose, but nothing comes out. She rubs at her nostrils and is startled by a sudden sharp pain and the sensation of something solid in there. What the hell is going on? She rushes to the bathroom mirror, tilting her head back to get a better look. When she can make out what is blocking her nostrils, her jaw drops. Teeth. They're smaller than the ones in her mouth and somewhat obscured, but there's no doubt about it. Little rows of teeth have erupted inside of her nose. She calls her dentist and schedules an immediate appointment. She struggles to explain on the phone, but no matter what words she chooses, she knows the doctor won't truly understand until he sees her condition with his own eyes. And when he does see it, he can't stop himself from crying out in shock. This is no ordinary case of hyperdontia. This is something else entirely, something that should be medically impossible. Seeing the appearance of teeth inside of the woman's nose, the dentist decides to perform a thorough examination of the rest of her face and head. Much to his and her horror, he finds small teeth beginning to erupt in her ear canals too. He warns that if they are not removed, they could cause permanent damage to her hearing. There's no doubt about it. For the sake of her well-being, the dentist must perform the strangest extractions of his career. The woman is given an anesthetic, and he gets to work. By the time he is finished, the dentist has pulled 36 teeth of varying sizes and shapes from her mouth, nose, and ears. It was a harrowing affair, but at least it's over. He prescribes pain medication, an antibiotic, and some time off of work, and advises the woman to give him a call if she experiences anything like this again. Neither of them will say it aloud, but they're both privately terrified that she'll have to come back in and do it all over again. For the next few weeks, the woman feels like she's back to normal. She's a bit shaken up by the experience, a bit exhausted, but otherwise it all seems to be resolved. Then the aches start up again, not just in her gums this time, but in her ears, in her nose, and more terrifying of all, in new places too. She can feel them, the germs of new teeth growing under the surface in between her fingers and her toes, even in her eyelids. The feeling was unpleasant and distracting before, but now it is absolute agony. She can barely dial the telephone to contact her dentist, but she manages to call him and drag herself down to the office. At first, he doesn't want to believe it, but then he performs an X-ray. The images that come back turn his stomach, and he nearly vomits onto the floor. He can see them clear as day. Teeth, 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 growing everywhere. The woman feels that unique ache, the building pressure of something struggling to grow, ready to burst through the skin and be born. More teeth in her mouth, and teeth in her eyes, her ears, all over her body. Even if he extracts every tooth again, even if he plucks out each new growth, there will be more waiting to replace them. Unsure of what else to recommend, he advises the woman to check herself into the hospital. Whatever her affliction is, it has progressed beyond his capabilities. Weeks later, the woman is lying in her hospital bed, weak, exhausted, barely able to move. Her skin is dotted with teeth. Her doctors tried to perform surgery to remove some of the teeth before they could erupt, but the incisions became tiny mouths filled with even more teeth. Now, they've all but given up. She can barely open her eyes to get a look at the strange figures that enter her hospital room, promising to help get to the bottom of her condition. They're scientists, they say, and they specialize in unusual conditions like hers. This poor, unfortunate woman is considered the first recorded patient to be infected with SCP-913. SCP-913 is an infectious disease, the most notable symptom of which is the manifestation of severe hyperdontia in unusual parts of the body. The initial source of the infection has been traced to the location now known as Building 2450, a former men's bathroom and a company service station off of a major motorway in the United Kingdom. It is unknown exactly how the infection is transmitted, but Level 5 HAZ suits have been ineffective at containing and preventing the infection. The disease can affect a wide variety of mammalian species, including but not limited to rodents, dogs, and humans. Approximately 23% of mammals exposed to the initial infection source area will contract SCP-913. Infection can also be passed through a bite, provided the bite is deep enough to draw blood. Infections from bites occur at a rate of approximately 12%. The initial stage of infection is characterized by the presentation of hyperdontia in various orifices of the body. I am sorry to say that is exactly what it sounds like, the eruption of extra teeth in places where no teeth should be. This generally begins in the mouth, as extra teeth sprout from the gums, the roof of the mouth, and the frenulum beneath the tongue. However, as the disease progresses, any bodily opening can become fair game, including the nostrils, the eye sockets, and other, even less comfortable locations. The size of the teeth varies depending on the size of the opening and tends to be proportional to the space available. Teeth produced as a result of SCP-913 infection grow at a rate approximately 12 times that of ordinary teeth and can grow from gem to full root completion over the course of a period between 3 weeks and 9 months, depending on size. As the infection progresses, more and more rows of teeth will grow further and further back into the affected orifice. Once all natural bodily orifices have grown at least one full row of teeth, the infection will progress into its next stage. At this stage, parts of the body that form a semi-closed space, such as the spaces between the toes or the armpits, will begin to erupt teeth. If that wasn't horrible enough, any apertures formed on the body via external trauma, such as cuts on the skin, will become growth sites for SCP-913 teeth. Did you just feel a shiver run down your spine? Me too. My own spine, not your spine, you understand. Back to the matter at hand, which I'm so sorry to tell you does in fact get worse. You see, as the infection progresses and more teeth are growing, the calcium and other minerals required to grow these teeth have to come from somewhere. These minerals will be leached from the body's natural stores, and the process can frequently result in osteoporosis and hypocalcemia. Administering calcium and other mineral supplements to SCP-913 patients will keep them alive, and they will continue to produce teeth indefinitely if this is the case. You might be wondering if the process of growing all of these teeth is especially painful. Allow me to provide absolutely no reassurance. It is. It has been described as extremely painful and similar to the teething pains experienced by young children as their regular teeth develop and grow in. Much like teething infants, patients will experience a strong desire to address this pain by biting or grinding the affected teeth. However, as the infection progresses, the teeth will begin to erupt in areas that are incapable of biting.
In these cases, patients will often grind the teeth against solid objects such as the corners of walls. This activity has been highly discouraged, as it could result in cuts and lacerations that may provide a breeding ground for even more teeth, resulting in a truly vicious cycle. Incidentally, this behavior led to the first recorded instance of SCP-2450 infection via tooth-to-blood contact. SCP-2450 was first discovered by the Foundation during a routine search of medical literature, and on February 19, 2009, the Foundation classified it as an anomalous phenomenon sufficiently distinct from hyperdontia. At that point, standard information suppression policy was applied successfully, and the pattern of outbreaks was then used to trace the source to the aforementioned service station. At that point, a series of quarantines and experimentation revealed that the men's restroom in Wing B was the specific point of origin. As far as the Foundation has been able to determine, there is nothing anomalous about the service station or that particular bathroom, aside from the SCP-2450 infections themselves. The station was first built in 1983 and operated normally for decades. So when and how did everything change? By interviewing cleaning and security staff and reviewing years of security footage, the SCP Foundation was able to tentatively pinpoint the date of origin for SCP-2450 to July 15, 2008. On that day, the following events were captured by security cameras located in the building. First, 3 men in black hooded sweatshirts entered the building, their hoods pulled up to obscure their faces. One of the men carried a large, seemingly empty backpack. Another held an unidentified green implement. The third man had nothing in his hands. Shortly after entering the building, the men stopped outside of the Wing B men's bathroom and spoke amongst themselves. No audio was recorded, and their lips could not be seen, so there is no way of knowing exactly what was said. But whatever it was, the men entered the bathroom a few moments later. Before shutting the door behind them, the last man examined the area, looking to see if they were being followed. Seeing that they were alone, he closed the door, and the 3 of them disappeared. They were inside the bathroom for the next 2.5 hours. Whatever happened in that bathroom is still unknown, as security cameras inside of restrooms are generally frowned upon and tend not to be installed. After those 2.5 hours were up, 2 out of the 3 men exited the bathroom, the man with the backpack and the man who was carrying the green object. The third man was not with them. The backpack now appeared to be full, and a great deal heavier than it was on the way in. The 2 men walked to the main entrance of the building, at which point the one without the backpack stopped and reached into the top pocket of his hooded sweatshirt. He then patted the pockets of his trousers. Whatever he was looking for was not there. He turned to head back into the building, but the other man placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. The 2 argued for a moment before leaving the building and getting into a car. Later analysis of the license plate revealed it to be a stolen vehicle. They drove off toward the south and out of sight. Subsequent attempts to track the men down have so far been unsuccessful. The cleaner on duty that day later reported that one of the bathroom stalls was locked for an unusually long time. When he came back and was able to enter and clean the stall, he spotted a large amount of what appeared to be white gravel on the floor and the lid of the toilet. This is now believed to be dental matter. Speaking of unidentified objects, the green implement from the security tapes was later discovered and identified. It is now referred to as SCP-2450-1 and is stored in Reliquary 87B-6, Locker 12004. SCP-2450-1 is a green plastic toothbrush of unknown make or manufacturer. As you might have guessed, it is no ordinary toothbrush. When a tooth is brushed with SCP-2450-1, the teeth will be worn down to the root at a rapid pace. An entire molar, including the root, can be removed with the brush in 5 minutes. In spite of this, it appears to do no damage to any other surrounding tissue such as the skin or gums. On the back of the handle, the text, "For non-oral use only," is printed. The origins of this toothbrush and the motivations for the men that entered the bathroom stall that day are still unknown. However, given the information that we do have, I feel I can make an educated guess. It is my personal theory that the third man, the one who had never been found, was suffering from an advanced form of the SCP-2450 infection. When the men attempted to treat his condition with the anomalous toothbrush, he had advanced to such a severe state that his body was primarily made up of teeth, and he crumbled apart during the process. His remains were then stuffed into the backpack and taken out of the building. The debris left behind somehow infected the area, leading to the subsequent SCP-2450 infections that have occurred in the area since. I have no way to officially confirm this speculation, of course, but it seems as reasonable of a theory as something can be where anomalous tooth-based diseases and unusually powerful toothbrushes are concerned. Any patients afflicted with SCP-2450 must be kept in Secure War Land 12 and physically restrained in order to contain the infection and prevent any further spread. The initial source of infection is contained at the site of its discovery in Building 2450, which has been disguised as an electrical substation. Building 2450 is kept securely locked and surrounded by a standard substation fence, which has been covered with danger of death warning signs in order to deter any civilians from approaching. The building is kept under constant surveillance, and anyone attempting to enter the premises must be detained and thoroughly questioned. The only method of entering Building 2450 is a double-door system, including an isolation chamber which prevents any small mammals from entering the building. No mammals, with the exception of approved test subjects, may exit the building. One member of Foundation personnel with formal dentistry training must be assigned to monitor all dentistry journals and affiliated news sources for cases that might indicate an outbreak of SCP-2450. If one is detected, swift and decisive action must be taken. There is currently no known cure for SCP-2450. Patients who have been infected with the disease can either be kept alive with mineral supplements and produce teeth indefinitely, or they can slowly lose calcium and vital minerals over time until their body can no longer function. Either way, they will be a prisoner of the teeth until the day that they die, confined to a terrifying, toothy existence. Though those who have already been infected are somewhat doomed, at least until a cure can be found, we can take some comfort in the knowledge that SCP-2450 can be easily avoided. Just stay away from the men's restroom in Building 2450 and try not to let anyone bite you, at least not hard enough to draw blood. Still, the images I saw while looking into SCP-2450 will haunt me for quite some time. In fact, I think I've had my fill of the topic. My gums are beginning to itch, so if you'll excuse me, I think I'll go eat some caramels and forget to floss. Can't let the teeth get too comfortable. The captain and the second mate are too stunned to speak. The deckhand hasn't just gone insane, he's become unrecognizable. Something is burrowing out from his eye socket. Teeth. A cluster of teeth that are growing without stopping, winding out of the space where his eyes should be, like weeds. To their horror, the deckhand reaches into the socket and wrenches out one of the teeth, putting it in his mouth and chewing it. As his head turns, they catch a glimpse of the side of his head, lined with more of the crooked, yellow teeth growing out of his skull. Their roots no doubt burrowing into his brain. It looks more like the barnacles on the bottom of the ship than the side of a human head. The captain knows there's only one thing to do. Their cargo needs to go overboard. She's the one doing this. On October 19th, 1985, the cargo ship, the SS Mavis, would be sailing en route to the United Kingdom. Within a week, the vessel would be found by SCP Foundation agents. It was shipwrecked off the east coast of England with no sign of any of the crew, or, more importantly, their cargo, SCP-4667. This anomaly has somehow managed to evade Foundation capture in the almost 4 decades since, although what they would uncover from the wreckage of the Mavis would uncover more about this elusive entity. The SS Mavis had been on a course from a port in Russia to the United Kingdom, carrying a number of individuals from Irkutsk within the USSR. Research and evidence gathered by the Foundation indicates that one of these individuals was Yosif Yekaterina, a local dentist from the area. The other was a mute woman 26 years of age, referred to only as Evidente in partial records recovered from the Mavis. Her surname remains unknown and is believed to have been lost. While at the time of the shipwreck's discovery, the Foundation assumed that this was a case of 2 Soviet defectors fleeing from the USSR during the Cold War, smuggled aboard the cargo ship, it was quickly determined that these 2 individuals were far from ordinary civilians. Yosif Yekaterina had departed Russia after contacting a colleague of his in Britain, discussing an unusual discovery he had made regarding one of his patients. This patient was Evidente,
prompting Yekaterina to bring the girl with him aboard the Mavis to visit his associate in the UK, one Russ Stanford, a man known to the SCP Foundation. At the time, Russ Stanford had garnered some attention from the Foundation given his role as the leader of a smaller-scale group of interest, designated as GOI 0435, the Dentists Collective of Britain. While they were hardly considered as great of a security risk as the likes of the Chaos Insurgency or GRU Division P, the Dentists Collective noted study of anomalies had become more prevalent under Russ Stanford's leadership, prompting the Foundation to keep watch of their activities. They had started simply as a workers' union for dentists, but for some unknown reason, the Dentists Collective of Britain had pivoted under Stanford towards studying anomalous practices of dentistry and genetic dental disorders that were also anomalous in nature. Hence, Russ Stanford's apparent interest in Eva Dente. In addition to being mute, the Soviet woman had been diagnosed with total anodontia, a genetic disorder that causes a complete lack of teeth. But there was something else about her condition that had prompted Yekaterina to contact Stanford. The Foundation has since determined that Eva Dente is SCP-4667. Upon hearing about the anomalous dental condition of Yekaterina's patient, Stanford was eager to examine her for himself. He requested that she be relocated to his office in the UK and corresponded with Yekaterina directly in order to arrange for both him and Eva Dente to be smuggled out of the USSR. They procured the SS Mavis, a British-owned cargo-hauling vessel, to transport the dentist and his anomalous patient by bribing the crew on board. It was also agreed that, in exchange for safe passage to the UK, Yekaterina would offer his services as the ship doctor, should the need arise. With the cargo ship workers agreeing to smuggle the two supposed defectors, the Mavis set sail, with Eva Dente locked in a small room to the side of the vessel's cargo hold. By the time the ship washed up on the shores of the United Kingdom, both Yekaterina and SCP-4667 would have vanished. The rest of the crew weren't so lucky. Aboard the SS Mavis were Captain Boleslav Kondrat, the chief mate Carlton Tilda, the ship's chief engineer Kenelm Hiram, Wilhelm Kale the second mate, and deckhand Sebastian Wendell. During the initial transit from the USSR to the UK, Wendell was keeping an eye on Eva Dente in her room. He and Kale discussed her activity, noting that she seemed to be pacing around inside. Neither had been told why she was being held in the cargo hold room. They had only heard from Yekaterina that she was mute and lacked any teeth. Beyond that, they weren't given a reason from their captain as to why she was aboard. Having been standing watch for a while at this point, Wendell asked Kale to fetch him a chair, only to start coughing lightly as his crewmate departed. He tried striking up conversation with Eva Dente, asking if she needed anything, even offering her some leftovers from the previous night's supper. Suddenly, Wendell found his cough becoming more violent and raised a hand to cover his mouth. He felt something solid hit the center of his palm, caught it reflexively, only to feel sick to his stomach the second he opened his fingers to see it. It was a human tooth, an abnormally elongated human tooth. Looking through the window into the room where Eva Dente was, Wendell thanked her, then casually put the tooth back in his mouth, loudly crunching it before eventually swallowing it. Despite telling the anomalous dental patient that he was good for now, he quickly coughed up another unusually long tooth. Well, if you insist. Elsewhere on the ship, over at the bridge, Captain Kondrat had been manning the wheel and steering the Mavis, while absent-mindedly humming to himself. As he consulted one of his maps, he suddenly started to experience a cramp in his hand, assuming it to be a flare-up of his carpal tunnel syndrome. To his shock, though, as he reached to pick up a pencil, a soft crack caused him to jolt his hand backwards. Somehow, the fingernail on his left index finger had cracked and was bulging outwards. At that moment, his chief mate Tilda entered the bridge in time to man the helm while the captain left to speak with their impromptu doctor, Yekaterina, about his unusual injury. Finding Captain Kondrat entering his quarters, Yekaterina turned away from writing in his journal and asked if everything was all right with his patient. Kondrat assured the dentist that the deckhand Wendell was keeping a close eye on her before he presented his damaged fingernail to Yekaterina. Being the closest thing to the ship's doctor on board, Yekaterina retrieved a pair of pliers from his bag and started to remove splinters of Kondrat's fingernail. The captain winced, keeping his hand pressed flat on the nightstand, wondering if it wouldn't be less hassle to just chop the whole finger off. But the more fragments Yekaterina chipped away revealed something underneath the man's fingernail. Another long, human tooth. Yekaterina urged the confused Kondrat to keep still while he started pulling the tooth out of his finger. The captain howled obscenities as pain ran down his hand until the tooth cracked out of his finger, which then started to bleed heavily. Yekaterina calmly placed the tooth on the nightstand and retrieved something to sterilize the wound and bandages to cover it. Gagging, barely able to get words out, Kondrat asked what could possibly cause a growth like that to appear. The dentist's answer was as simple as it was telling. "Girl is losing control." He explained as best as he could that he'd cared for Evidente for some time, and she had what he considered to be a gift. Yekaterina was certain that she was in control of this anomalous ability, but it seemed that was no longer the case. As he casually produced a measuring tape from his satchel and measured the tooth, Captain Kondrat pressed him for more information, only to be interrupted by Hiram, the chief engineer. He had come to warn the captain that the Mavis was going too fast and that the engine would give out if they kept on at their current speed. Frustrated, Kondrat chalked it up to Tilda, expecting that the chief mate was slacking. He told Hiram to get Tilda out of his smoke break and back to the ship's wheel. Returning to his conversation with Yekaterina, Captain Kondrat demanded to know more about what Evidente was doing to him. The dentist explained that he wasn't entirely sure, but that his colleague at the Dentists Collective of Britain, Russ Stanford, knew more. All Yekaterina really understood was that Evidente could cause teeth to grow. Beyond that, little else. He didn't even have a name for the anomalous condition. The tooth he'd pulled from Kondrat's finger was 32 millimeters long, 10 millimeters longer than the average incisor, and it was still growing. While Kondrat departed Yekaterina's quarters, over at the helm of the ship, Tilda hadn't stepped away from the wheel at all. He just couldn't move. Following the captain's orders, Hiram headed over to the bridge to get the chief mate to slow the cargo vessel down, only to freeze on the spot the moment he saw Tilda. He backed away, horrified, only to start feeling lightheaded. With a heavy thump, Hiram dropped to the floor, fainted. Tilda wasn't moving. He couldn't move. His body was covered in copious amounts of the same elongated teeth, growing out of his arms, legs, hands, splitting through fingernails, and breaking the skin of his knuckles as more of them came bursting out. The teeth surrounded his entire body and had intertwined with the ship's controls, causing the Mavis's gradual acceleration. While Hiram lay unconscious on the floor, there then came the sound of cracking. A puddle of blood started to form underneath him. Back in the cargo hold, something equally strange was happening to Wendell. He was chewing, but no crunching could be heard. His voice was noticeably slurred as he asked Evidente if she had any more for him. When Cale returned with a chair, Wendell turned to him and asked if he had any teeth to spare. Before the terrified Cale could properly process what he was seeing, Wendell reached into his eye socket with two of his fingers and pulled out another elongated tooth before he put it in his mouth and started chewing. Kondrat entered just in time to see this unfold, the captain and his second mate baffled and horrified by what was going on. Wendell jeered that eating his own teeth was better than Cale's cooking, before insisting he was still watching their anomalous cargo. Captain Kondrat explained as best he could that Evidente was somehow messing with Wendell, and that he wasn't supposed to have teeth growing out of his eyes. Without warning, Wendell collapsed, gripping his gut in agony. The tooth fragments in his stomach were still growing and had elongated so much that they were able to puncture through his abdomen. They didn't stop, small enamel spikes tearing through his shirt, while Cale, on Kondrat's order, grabbed the ship's keys from Wendell. The captain declared he wanted to throw Evidente overboard. Cale brought the keys up to the door, only for another tooth to suddenly grow out of the tip of his index finger. It pierced right through his thumb, causing him to drop the keys in pain. As they clattered to the floor, Evidente reached under the door and grabbed them. But as Kondrat was quick to taunt her, she couldn't unlock the door from inside the room. Within the cargo hold side room, Evidente threw the keys in frustration. She stared at the sealed door, and as she did, screams could be heard from the other side. Kondrat and Cale were themselves becoming masses of elongated teeth, screaming in agony before going silent after a few short seconds. Above her, Evidente noticed the ceiling was convex and stepped into the corner of the room, out from underneath the bulge. The ceiling above her started to crack under the strain of something above, only to break and allow a mass of teeth to fall through the resultant hole. It was, or it had been, Hiram's body, now riddled with more of the elongated teeth growing from his back and shoulders. The roof above the side room collapsed, allowing Evidente to escape. A rising pillar of growing teeth carried her up through the hole in the ceiling, up to the Mavis's bridge. Stepping off the platform she had grown out of Hiram, Evidente was at the ship's helm. Low fuel lights were blinking as the calcified statue of Tilda's body was stuck at the ship's wheel. Calmly and silently, Evidente left the bridge through a side door that took her down onto the main deck of the cargo ship. There, the dentist who'd brought her aboard was readying a lifeboat. Seeing her suddenly approaching, Yekaterina wasn't at all startled. Instead, he spoke to Evidente in Russian, telling her,
"You know I care about you and your craft, unlike these others. I will await your reclamation. I hope my service was satisfactory."
After staring at him for a few moments, Evidente left to return to the bridge, leaving Yekaterina free to leave the Mavis aboard the lifeboat. When the ship would eventually wash up on the coast of the United Kingdom, there was no one still alive on board. Or rather, there wouldn't be by the time the Foundation arrived, but they weren't the one to get to the Mavis first. Having been expecting the cargo ship's arrival, members of GOI 0435, including the leader of the Dentists Collective of Britain, Russ Stanford, were quick to arrive at the site of the shipwreck. It was October 21st, 1985. The arrival of the Dentists Collective was recorded by one of their members carrying a video camera. Stanford claimed that she had spoken to him the night before, that she wanted the group to see something. He instructed the cameraman to keep the film steady, as there'd be others who would want to see. Approaching the Mavis's wreckage, Stanford quickly recognized it as the cargo ship that Yekaterina had bribed. He called out to see if there was anyone else still alive on board. As he did, Evidente emerged on the deck of the Mavis. Stanford, with the majority of the rest of the group, called out to her and claimed that they had studied her craft. They called Evidente's anomalous condition her divine work and said that they had heard her cries in the teeth of their dental patients. "Not all of us forsake your gift. Not all." Evidente smirked in response, interrupting Stanford as a pair of wings began to unfurl from her back. They were made entirely of elongated teeth, although the cameraman filming this happening couldn't get a clear enough shot of what was holding them together. Stanford and the rest of the Dentists Collective of Britain bowed towards Evidente. Their leader then addressed the anomalous winged woman. "Go, make your gift clear, Evidente. Make it clear to the overlookers." At this point, as captured in the recording, Evidente used her teeth wings to lift herself up into the air before flying towards the mainland. Once she exited the frame of the camera lens, the members of the Dentists Collective started slowly walking in the same direction that she flew off in. The cameraman dropped his camera, seemingly not noticing, as he joined the others silently walking into the distance. The camera was still rolling when the Foundation agents arrived on the scene. Multiple objects of significance were recovered from the scene of the SS Mavis wreck, including the bodies of its crew, a photo, and the camera, with some of its recordings still intact. The photograph, presumed to have been dropped by one of the dentists, was a black and white image of one of their group meetings, dated several years earlier, showing the collective's members sitting around a table. Written on the back was the phrase, "Dentists Meeting 1981, we grow stronger every day." Among the figures in the photo, Russ Stanford could be seen standing at the far side of the table. Following the recovery of the SS Mavis's shipwreck, the SCP Foundation has been unable to ascertain the whereabouts of GOI 0435. Researchers have postulated that this was more than a group of practitioners with an interest in anomalous dentistry. From the evidence gathered at the scene, they appear to have been some kind of cult of unknown origin or intentions. According to records obtained by the Foundation, not one of the group's members returned to regular practice following this event, nor have any been reported as deceased. The search for further information regarding the Dentists Collective remains ongoing. SCP-4667 also still remains at large. Despite knowing of her existence, SCP-4667 has never been in Foundation custody. However, details about her anomalous condition have been ascertained from the footage recovered at the wreck of the SS Mavis, as well as the bodies of its crew. Whether possessing their deciduous milk teeth or their full-grown succedaneous adult teeth,
Anyone in close enough proximity to SCP-4667 will begin to grow elongated teeth throughout their body. The range of this anomalous dental transfiguration is thought to have an area of effect between approximately 70 to 100 meters. A person being affected by SCP-4667 will find their teeth start to slowly elongate vertically, growing downwards into the gum line and eventually through it. This is also known to affect other mammals, as a colony of European bats were found aboard the Mavis, having also succumbed to the effects of SCP-4667. More new teeth will begin to sporadically grow directly from the subject's skeletal system, starting at the jawbone and then downwards, with more growths beginning lower down. These newly developed teeth will also start to rapidly get longer until they are able to puncture vital organs or break through from underneath the subject's skin. This occurs at a sporadic rate, and some Foundation researchers have speculated, based on security footage recovered from aboard the Mavis, that SCP-4667 is able to at least partially control the rate at which these new teeth grow. However, until she is able to be captured, this remains unconfirmed. What is known for certain is that this anomalous overgrowth of teeth will continue even after an affected person is dead. The typical cause of death for these people is having their internal organs pierced by tooth growth. Most commonly, the roots of the teeth in the person's upper jaw elongate until they stab through the roof of the mouth and continue upwards into the brain. Perhaps strangest of all, however, was what the Foundation discovered had happened to the bodies of the Mavis crew after they had been killed. Cadavers of those affected by SCP-4667 are no longer in close proximity to her. The teeth growths will start collectively bending into large, intricate sculptures. The teeth growths emerging from one of the crew formed a feminine, winged humanoid, thought by some to be a depiction of Evidente herself. The bat colony affected by SCP-4667 grew to depict multiple small humanoid figures, appearing to be malnourished and in states of anguish. Out of one of the other crew members grew a tooth sculpture of the winged figure with its arms extended over multiple humanoids. From one of the other bodies, a depiction of these humanoid figures appearing joyous and holding what looked to be food. The next of these tooth growth sculptures appear to show multiple aggressive human figures, with the winged entity flying away from them. The remaining one, noticeably larger and better constructed than the other statues, showed the same winged feminine humanoid, crying. Foundation experts are still struggling to interpret the meaning of these sculptures or how exactly they are formed from a body affected by SCP-4667. Researchers are hopeful that the eventual recovery of SCP-4667 will yield some answers. She is currently thought to be located somewhere between either the North Sea or the Baltic Sea. Abnormal tooth growth in coastal and ocean fauna is being tracked in order to determine her exact whereabouts. Nobody likes going to the dentist. The smell of the chemicals, the sound of the drill, the indignity of talking with someone's hands in your mouth. But as you settle into the dentist's chair, something about this particular visit feels especially wrong. Why are the hygienists looking at you like that? Who is this strange doctor entering the room? And why does your mouth feel so full all of a sudden? You can't move, you can't scream, and your teeth, they're multiplying? The man has been ignoring his persistent toothache for several weeks, but he just can't take it anymore. The dull ache has become a head-pounding throb of pain that cuts through every single thought. But of course, he waited far too long to treat it, and now here he is on a Sunday evening, trying to find a dentist who will give him an appointment. It's not his fault, he tells himself. He's been terrified of the dentist since he was a little kid. It takes a lot of pain to counteract that kind of phobia, but now he's reached that threshold. As he's browsing the internet, desperate to find an office that's open on Sundays, he spots an ad. Dr. Hendricks, dentistry 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The man isn't sure how that's possible, but the pain has made him desperate, so he calls the number on the ad and makes an appointment. The receptionist sounds a bit funny on the phone, like she has something in her mouth, but he brushes it off. 15 minutes later, he's walking into the office and checking in at the reception desk. The woman sitting there looks a bit unusual, but his mother raised him not to stare, so he gives her a polite, distant nod, declines her request to inspect his teeth for herself, and ignores the strange feeling in his gut at her words. Instead, he continues on to the exam room and waits for the doctor to take his pain away. He waits for quite some time, until he begins to worry that the dentist forgot about him. Or perhaps this office really was too good to be true, and this is some sort of scam.
But then the door opens, and in comes Dr. Hendricks with a cheerful demeanor and a smile in his eyes. His mouth is covered with a surgical mask, so the man can't be certain, but he seems like he's definitely smiling. It's a good thing the man came in so quickly, the dentist assures him. His teeth are in dire straits. But don't worry, he's in very, very good hands, and by the time he walks out of the office, he'll be in great shape. The man asks the dentist if he can be put under for the procedure in order to prevent him from panicking. The dentist laughs uproariously at this request, but he agrees. He places a gas mask over the man's face, and the hissing sound of the gas fills the room. The man's eyes grow heavy, and the sterile white room fades to black. When the man wakes up, he's sitting on the sidewalk outside of the office, a plastic bag of mini mouthwash clutched in his hand. And his mouth, oh God, his mouth. It's aching like nothing he's ever felt before. But something else is wrong too. He reaches up to feel around his mouth with his fingers, and all the color drains from his face. His mouth is absolutely crowded with teeth. So many teeth, his tongue can't move without poking up against them. He expected to leave the dentist with one tooth missing, but instead, somehow, he has 30 more than he started with. Unfortunately for this man, who only wanted to have a toothache treated, he stumbled into the clutches of SCP-5150. SCP-5150 is a dental office located outside the northwestern perimeter of Indianapolis, Indiana. The office building occupies an area of approximately 140 square meters, and the interior measures 115 square meters. The building is unremarkable in every way, with the exception of an electrical sign above the building's front entrance, which reads, Dr. John Hendricks, DDS. Inside the building, there are 6 rooms and several anomalous entities designated SCP-5150-1, SCP-5150-2, and SCP-5150-3. SCP-5150-1 is the dental office's receptionist. Of course, as you may have already gathered, she is no ordinary receptionist. The entity has standard humanoid features, with the exception of the oral cavity. The entity's maxillary and mandibular bones, or upper and lower jaw, are disfigured and mutilated and have been noted to have missing incisors, extra canines, and bleeding gums. The entity seems to have an intense interest in human teeth, and once she has gotten her hands on some, her anomalous properties will begin to manifest notably. She will insert stolen human teeth into her mouth and into her gums. This appears to be intended to correct the issues with her oral cavity, but the exact motivation for this behavior is still unknown. Anyone who enters SCP-5150 must interact with SCP-5150-1 at her reception desk in order to continue through or exit the building, regardless of how much aggression she displays toward them. SCP-5150-2 refers to several anomalous dental hygienists that populate the entirety of SCP-5150, with the exception of the waiting area. These entities resemble the receptionist, but move more freely throughout the building rather than being confined behind a desk. They are similarly aggressive and will attack human subjects in order to apprehend them and bring them into one of the examination rooms. They carry a variety of dental instruments on their person and will happily use these instruments as weapons in order to subdue their victims. Once the hygienists have taken a human subject to an exam room, they will strap them to an operating table and prepare them to meet the remaining entity lurking within the office. Then it's time for the unfortunate human subject to meet the dentist himself, SCP-5150-3, also known as Dr. John Hendricks. This entity spends his time in the examination rooms as well as his personal office. When he is presented with a patient, he will begin to insert teeth directly into their mouth, where they will anomalously take root and result in extreme cases of hyperdontia. The source of these additional teeth is currently unknown. Once the operation is complete, and Dr. Hendricks is satisfied with the amount of teeth he has forced into his patient's mouth, he will then attempt to give the subject a plastic bag containing a variety of over-the-counter oral healthcare products. These can include a toothbrush, dental floss, mouthwash, and toothpaste. The subjects will not be allowed to leave the building without taking this bag with them. Analysis of these products has not revealed any anomalous properties. On July 9, 2023, the SCP Foundation conducted an investigation of SCP-5150. Subject D457142 was ordered to investigate and explore the building. He was equipped with a camera and microphone, as well as a chocolate bar, which was placed in his pocket for emergency use. Control lead was assigned to Bobby Daniels, and Marcus Drago and Andrew Fuller were additional team members on the investigation. D457142 approached the building, but hesitated before going inside. He asked what would happen after he entered the building, but Daniels refused to elaborate. His questions went unanswered. With no other option, D457142 entered the building. When he opened the door, a doorbell dinged to signal his entry. As the door closed behind him, he could hear a click as the lock slid into place. This sent the man into a state of anxiety, and he attempted to open the door. It wouldn't budge. He called out to Control over the microphone, begging them to unlock the door, promising that he would not run. Daniels at Control explained that he couldn't do anything about it, as the Foundation had no control over the doors. That lock was all SCP-5150's doing. After some hemming and hawing, D457142 had no option but to proceed and continue into the waiting area of SCP-5150. Inside, he saw a row of 4 chairs, a smattering of assorted toys common to any medical waiting room, and more chairs. There, off to the side, was the counter, and behind a sheet of glass with a small opening approximately 1.2 meters tall and 0.8 meters wide, the receptionist was waiting. Strangely, the camera feed was not able to pick up any of the receptionist's physical features, leaving the test subject alone to observe her and try to make sense of what he was seeing. Nothing was especially out of the ordinary in the room at first glance, aside from the episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer playing on one of the waiting room TVs. The subject walked through the room, taking note of everything that he saw. Then he turned to face the receptionist. The receptionist was dressed in a white collared shirt with a white face mask covering her mouth. There was a sheet of paper directly in front of her. She greeted the test subject. "Hello, sir. Can I help you schedule an appointment?" Unsure of what else to do, the test subject played along. He asked her how to proceed with scheduling, and the receptionist handed him a pen and directed him toward the paper in front of her. She instructed him to sign and then wait for his appointment with Dr. Hendricks in 5 minutes. Once the subject signed the paper, the receptionist stated, "Now, before you can enter, there's one thing I'll need to see." The subject agreed, asking what she needed to see. The receptionist responded, "Your teeth, of course. May I see them?" As you might expect, the test subject found the request off-putting and inquired why she might need to see his teeth. She responded in a friendly tone, "I'm currently taking online classes for dentistry and I need experience. Occasionally patients will let me take a look at their teeth so I can predict how well an appointment with Dr. Hendricks will go. Will you let me try with you?" The subject relented, opening his mouth. As soon as he did, the receptionist reached out and grabbed hold of the lower left quadrant of the man's jaw. The receptionist praised the man's teeth, exclaiming how clean they were. Then she quickly pulled a pair of pliers from underneath her desk, clamping them to the bottom central incisors of the subject's mouth. She pulled toward herself with a sudden, sharp yank, extracting the teeth from the subject's mouth in less than 1 second. The test subject recoiled, clutching at his mouth and screaming in pain and shock. Blood dripped onto the camera lens as the subject struggled to wipe it away. He stumbled toward a nearby tissue box, grabbing a fistful of tissues to sop up the blood and stem the flow. Meanwhile, the receptionist went about her business. She stared at the 2 bloody teeth in her hand, admiration in her eyes. Next, she removed her face mask, revealing her disfigured oral cavity, and began to forcefully insert the new teeth into empty areas of her gums. As the subject backed away from the reception desk in horror, the receptionist called out, "Dr. Hendricks can see you now, sir. Please head to room 3 for your examination." Of course, the subject was reluctant to continue into the building, but Control insisted that he go through the door leading to the exam rooms. At first, he refused, but after a reminder that he was locked in and the promise of a medical team waiting for him after the investigation was finished, he saw no option but to move forward. So he tossed his bloody wad of tissue paper in the trash and pushed through the next set of doors. As before, he could hear the click of the lock behind him, trapping him inside. He stepped carefully into the hallway, pressing his body against the left side of the wall as the sudden sound of laughter echoed through the hall. Where was it coming from? Who could be laughing somewhere like this? He wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. He continued through the hall, edging along the wall. Suddenly, he froze, crouching down to hide as one of the hygienists exited a nearby door. The entity passed him without noticing him, entering another exam room. The subject continued until he reached the far side of the hallway where a door with the nameplate John Hendricks was waiting. He opened the door and entered. There was no one inside. He checked in with Control, asking for instructions on what to do next. Control advised him to look for anything that could potentially be important. Documents, research papers, journal pages, anything that might shed some light on the nature of SCP-5150. He obeyed and began to search the desk, but found it was empty. Just then, the door to the office opened, and a hygienist called out to the subject, "What are you doing? We have another room waiting for you." At this point, cornered and with nowhere to run, the test subject grabbed his emergency chocolate bar and unwrapped it. At the sight of the sugary treat, the hygienist screamed and backed away. 2 other entities appeared, wielding sharp double-sided probes used during dental examinations. The 3 entities advanced toward the subject. In a panic, he threw the chocolate bar, and it collided with the 3rd hygienist. The entity shrieked, its mouth beginning to bleed as its teeth rapidly decayed. But now the subject was left unarmed and could not defend himself against the assault of the other 2 entities. They grabbed hold of him, one entity stabbing the subject with the probe, while the other bit down on his exposed forearm hard enough to draw blood and crack the bone. As he cried out in pain and fear, with no one able to save him, the subject was dragged to exam room 3. There, the hygienist strapped him down on an operating table, tying him in place with leather straps. "You can trust us, sir," one of the entities said. "We'll just need to pull some teeth before the dentist arrives." At this point, the entities removed the subject's 2 lower canines and 3 molars, all while he remained conscious and screaming. Then the door opened, and another entity came into the room. The doctor was in. At the sight of the dentist, the test subject began to spit various expletives. Dr. Hendricks met the verbal assault with an amused chuckle.
What a tongue! Why so harsh? Don't worry, this is for your own good. I know it may be scary, but it'll all be done with soon.
The dentist spotted the camera, removing it from the subject's body.
Is this for a home video? Well, no matter. Technically, this does break some patient-doctor confidentiality laws, but I can let this one slide. Here, let me get this at an angle where it can record better.
He placed the camera in the far right corner of the room, where it captured video of both the subject and Dr. Hendricks. All the while, the subject's mouth continued to bleed. The dentist continued to speak.
There we go, much better. Now, where were we? Oh, that's right. By the looks of it, it seems like they've already started. It's a shame. Your teeth aren't looking so great right now, but that's why you're here. I can help make it all better.
The dentist retrieved several medical cleaning supplies from the side of the room, as well as an array of syringes. Then, he was ready to work. The test subject's nightmare was far from over. The dentist elevated the operating chair and inserted a Jennings gag device into the subject's mouth in order to keep it open. What happened next could have been briefly mistaken for an ordinary teeth cleaning, other circumstances aside. The dentist used a dental mirror and several tools to pick and scrape at the remaining teeth in the subject's mouth, as if checking for plaque and tartar. Next, however, things got a bit more gruesome. He swapped the probing tools for a dental drill and began to dig into the subject's gums and inner cheeks. The drill was used on the subject's mouth for a duration of 15 minutes. If you're concerned about the lack of anesthetic used during these procedures, allow me to clarify that various high-quality anesthetics were administered. However, they were injected in the wrong locations or at insufficient dosages to adequately reduce the subject's pain. Sadly, he was fully aware of every agonizing sensation. After 2 hours, the dentist cheerfully remarked,
"We're almost done with the cleaning."
He added,
"You're doing just fine. See, I knew you wouldn't be so snappy after I started my work. Don't worry, I'll just have to do one more thing. But before I can do that, I'll have to move your camera. I can't allow this to be recorded. You understand, right?"
He turned the camera so that the lens faced the wall, preventing any visuals of what happened next from being captured. This is especially unfortunate, given that this was the point in the procedure at which the dentist's anomalous abilities manifested. The nature of these abilities is still, sadly, unknown. All that was captured by the microphone was moans of pain and the sounds of crunching as the subject's new teeth crowded into his gum line. After 20 minutes, the procedure was complete, and the dentist handed the subject a bag filled with various oral care items. Eventually, the subject was able to exit the building. When he emerged, he was pale and shaking, with splatters of blood down his shirt and an extreme case of hyperdontia. There were so many teeth present in the subject's mouth that he was unable to speak coherently. He was then taken to Site 334's infirmary, where his hyperdontia was treated and he was debriefed. After treatment, he was given amnestics and released. At this point, any further experimentation with SCP-5150 was suspended, pending the judgment of the Ethics Committee. No follow-ups were conducted with the test subject.
Still, I would be personally curious to know if his ordeal left him with a lifelong phobia of the dentist, even after the application of amnestics. I certainly don't believe I would ever be the same again. SCP-5150 was placed under containment within Provisional Site 334. A disinformation campaign and cover story for this provisional site was established concerning the fictional Hops Railroad Company. This was intended to hide SCP-5150 and any of its related media, including poster advertisements, newspaper articles, and social media posts. In the event of unauthorized access to SCP-5150, all personnel were required to be detained and immediately transferred to the on-site infirmary upon exiting the building. Excess teeth would be removed and stored there, and personnel would be given a thorough evaluation before being given Class C amnestics. All on-site personnel who interacted with SCP-5150 in an approved capacity were required to carry one candy bar containing a minimum of 35 grams of sugar at all times. You may be wondering why these containment procedures are detailed in the past tense. Well, there's a reason for that choice. The current containment procedures are no longer up to date, as the anomaly is no longer adequately contained. As of August 1, 2023, the building originally designated as SCP-5150 is completely absent of anomalous entities or paranormal activity. It is unknown how or why this shift took place, but the anomaly appears to have moved rather than disappeared. On September 22, 2023, posters advertising the dental practice of one Dr. John Hendricks were reported near the city of Greenwood, Indiana. All personnel assigned to Provisional Site 334 have been given a new directive: relocate and recontain SCP-5150 wherever it is migrated to. The dental health of innocent people depends on it. Remember to take good care of your teeth, brush and floss every day, and be sure to attend your regular dental checkups. And of course, always count your teeth before and after an appointment, just in case.
A man opens his mouth to bite a hot dog and suddenly freezes. His eyes widen, and the hot dog drops from his hand, falling to the ground. Ahead, a stampede of people is running toward him, screaming, crying out for help. Behind them, a man walks at an ordinary, casual pace, but something is off. His eyes have a glazed, unfocused look to them, and he keeps shoveling random items into his open mouth, swallowing them down. He eats a clipboard and pen, a discarded shoe, and as the first man watches in horror, the very hungry man grabs the ankle of a fallen member of the crowd and pulls him into his mouth, devouring him. The first man turns to run for his life, only to be knocked to the ground by the rest of the crowd, trying to escape. He struggles to climb back to his feet, and a hand reaches out to take his. When he makes it to his feet, he looks up and sees the hungry man pulling him in, mouth stretching open wide. The sky is a perfect, cloudless blue. The air is warm from the unbroken sunlight, but cooled to the perfect temperature by a gentle breeze. And there is a sense of electricity, excitement, and competition in the air. Throngs of people have gathered together in a makeshift arena, piled into plastic chairs and swarming around concession stands, all training their eyes on the arena's center. What are they here for? Some sort of Olympic Games? A baseball tournament? A horse race? No, it's something greater, something meatier. It is the annual Midsummer Hot Dog Eating Contest, and locals and tourists alike are coming together to see just who can cram the most pork or beef hot dogs and buns down their gullets in front of a roaring crowd. The announcer makes his way to the front of the arena, standing with his arms wide in front of the long table behind him. As he calls out the names of this year's contestants, they file in, each taking his place behind the table. There is the previous year's champion, a burly man with a bushy beard and twinkling eyes, and there is this year's surprise competitor, a skinny 19-year-old college student with a hungry grin. Then there are the lesser-known contestants, a local father who signed up after making a joke with his daughter, an uncle who scrawled his name on the sign-up sheet after a few too many drinks, a recently retired man checking off another item on his golden years bucket list. All have come to the event today with full hearts and empty stomachs, ready to see who the year's victor will be. The announcer riles up the crowd, encouraging them to cheer as loudly as possible to spur on their chosen competitor. All the while, staff are carrying out trays piled high with hot dogs, more hot dogs than most people see in a year, except for the people who just really, really love hot dogs. Each contestant receives a tray of hot dogs, a bucket of water, and an additional empty bucket, just in case, well, you get the idea. With the supplies and competitors all in place, it is time to begin the countdown. The announcer holds up his favorite air horn and calls out,
3,
At the sound of the air horn's blast, the men leap into action, seizing hot dogs from plates and each engaging in their unique competitive eating technique. The previous year's champion employs the method of famous hot dog eating champion Joey Chestnut, dunking his entire hot dog sloppily into his water, then swallowing it as quickly as possible. The new challenger, on the other hand, employs the Solomon method, named for King Solomon. Much like the fabled king suggested doing with a stolen infant, eaters using the Solomon method break the focus of their feasting in half before polishing it off. One of the more casual competitors attempts a divide and conquer technique, eating first the dog itself and then the bun. Others employ no specific technique at all, attempting to devour the stack of hot dogs before them, using the same classic eating style they might employ at a family barbecue. This is a grave mistake. One by one, the less prepared competitors drop out, spitting into their buckets, wiping meat sweats from their foreheads, waddling out of the arena while groaning and holding their aching stomachs. Soon, only the two frontrunners remain. But what's this? A challenger approaches. An unassuming black man, clad in a shirt and dress pants, rushes into the arena, his face a mask of single-minded determination, and begins seizing the discarded hot dogs off the table, gobbling them up as fast as he can. The announcer and the rest of the audience watch in stunned disbelief. This is unprecedented, and as exciting as it is, definitely against the rules. This man is not a registered competitor, and he certainly can't join the contest in the champion stretch. Unsure of what else to do, the announcer beckons to the staff on the sidelines, ushering them back toward the table to clear the food and escort this surprise drop-in out of the arena. The audience watches with rapt attention as the staff members attempt to remove the stranger from his place at the table. He shakes his head violently, refusing to go, and snatches the hot dogs away from them, even as they try to clear the trays away. All the while, the remaining competitors standing are attempting to stay the course and finish strong in spite of the interruption. The new, younger man collapses, slumping down onto the table in a hot dog-induced stupor. He has tapped out. The victor is the previous year's champion, with a staggering ultimate tally of 38 hot dogs. As 4 staff members work together to wrestle the stranger out of the arena, the champion steps forward to receive his trophy. The crowd roars as he holds up his arms, grinning ear to ear and basking in yet another win. The announcer can still see the staff struggling with the stranger out of the corner of his eye, but this crowd wants to see their champion crowned, and the show must go on. So he grabs the Hot Dog King sash, the crown made from gold-plated hot dogs, and even the massive gold trophy. He crowns the winner, placing the sash over his shoulders. Then, as the music swells triumphantly, courtesy of the local high school marching band, the announcer holds up the trophy, sunlight glinting off its shiny surface. It represents so many things: achievement, celebration, the ability to eat just so much meat and not get sick, and now it is time for it to be awarded to the man who earned it. The announcer stretches his arms, handing over the trophy to the contest winner, when all of a sudden, another hand grabs hold of its handle, ripping it from the announcer's grasp. The stranger has returned, somehow freeing himself from the multiple security guards who escorted him away, and he has taken the trophy for himself. But he isn't just attempting to crown himself the Hot Dog King. No, this is not a simple coup-de hot dog. He lifts the trophy up over his head, opening his mouth as wide as it will go, and tears the metal in half with a horrible screeching sound, shoving the pieces into his mouth, chewing and swallowing. By the time the announcer and the champion recover from their shock enough to move again, the trophy is completely gone, vanished into the stranger's belly. After a day of seemingly impossible feats of feasting, the sight of this strange man consuming a truly impossible meal of metal is just too much for the already anxious crowd to take. The arena erupts into absolute chaos as people spill out of their seats en masse, fleeing the area. The champion, however, does not turn and run. He feels robbed of his victory. Though it may have occurred in an utterly bizarre fashion, he won't stand for this kind of disrespect. He has trained all year for this moment, only to watch his trophy be eaten right in front of him. He marches right up to the stranger and pokes him in the chest, demanding to know who he thinks he is. What gives him the right to crash the hot dog eating contest, interrupt the proceedings, and upstage his victory by chowing down on the trophy? The man doesn't answer him, so the champion continues to berate him, wagging his finger in his face. The stranger's eyes follow the finger, and slowly he opens his mouth. There is a sudden chomp, and the champion screams, holding his hand to his chest, using his shirt to stem the bleeding. He turns to run with the rest of the crowd, but it's too late. The stranger's hand clamps down on his shoulder, holding him in place with a surprising strength. The only thing he sees before his life is snuffed out is the stranger's wide-open mouth, before everything goes dark with another sickening chomp. All the while, the crowd's terror rises to a fever pitch at the horrible sight. They trample each other as they scramble to vacate the area, shoving strangers and loved ones alike out of the way in a bid to escape this mysterious equal-opportunity omnivore with an appetite for far more than just hot dogs. Some manage to escape, running far enough from the arena that they can stop to catch their breaths and glance back at the ones who were not so lucky. Those who tripped and fell in the madness, who had the wind knocked out of them by an elbow to the gut from one of their neighbors, those with weak ankles or who hadn't tied their shoes carefully enough. All of these poor, unfortunate souls are next on the menu for the stranger, who devours them one by one, rarely even stopping to chew. As one surviving woman watching from a distance pulls out her phone to call 911, she can't escape noticing the parallels to the contest itself, the way the stranger eats with a singular focus on consuming as much as possible. There's no pause to enjoy the meal, but there is no sadism or malice in the act either, just the sheer, undeniable drive to keep eating. The woman's call to the police is one of the strangest moments of her life and utterly baffles the local police department. "Ma'am, please calm down," one officer repeats again and again. "What do you mean there's a man eating people?" "I mean exactly what I said," she shouts. "A man showed up at the hot dog contest and started eating people. Please, you have to do something." "I think this is above our pay grade, miss," another officer chimes in. "You think we should call, the first officer trails off. Who? The woman demands, but the line goes dead before she can ask another question. The police are clearly no help, and she isn't about to stick around and see just how big this stranger's appetite is. She tried to save the others, but now she needs to save herself. She runs all the way home without another glance back. Meanwhile, the local police did make that mysterious call, and an SCP Foundation mobile task force is currently en route to the scene. By the time they arrive, the park is a ghost town, with nothing but the blood-stained grass and abandoned arena to suggest that something horrible ever happened here at all. But these aren't some bumbling local police officers who have no idea what to do with a man-eating anomaly. This team has seen enough bizarre sights to fill a lifetime, and another lifetime after that. They spy a trail of sticky red footprints leading away from the arena. At first, they assume that the substance is blood, but a closer examination reveals that it is, in fact, ketchup. They track the savory footprints away from the scene of the day's unsavory events, following them to a nearby warehouse. Judging from the scattered wooden beams, rustling metal, and boarded-up windows, this place has been abandoned for some time. The perfect place for an anomaly to hide away. If they weren't certain, the sound of someone inside biting through sheets of metal is plenty of indication that this is the right place. With no time to waste, they break down the door of the warehouse, weapons drawn and ready. They follow the sound of the chewing, splitting up to apprehend the subject from all available directions. The shriek of tearing metal echoes through the building, bouncing off the walls and creating a cacophony that is difficult to track. They do their best to follow the sound, but quickly veer off in separate directions in an attempt to cover as much ground as possible. One operative confronts the stranger just as he is reaching for another piece of metal. He watches as the man takes a massive bite out of the steel, a bite that should have shattered his teeth and broken his jaw. Instead, a cartoonish bite mark is taken out of the metal. He approaches the stranger, who, upon locking eyes with him, begins to shake his head, still chewing. The MTF operative ignores this visual cue, approaching the man and attempting to physically restrain him. This, like the confrontation with the champion before, is cut off with a fateful chomp, and the operative screams ringing out through the warehouse, alerting his teammates to his unfortunate fate. The screams suddenly go silent, and another MTF operative stops cold, listening as the sound of chewing draws nearer and nearer. He spins around to face the presence behind him and spots the stranger standing there. The otherwise ordinary man is polishing off the tip of a steel beam, grimacing as he swallows it. The operative lifts his weapon, pointing it at the subject. The operative tells him to stand down and come quietly. The hungry man pleads, wide-eyed, for the operative to turn and run while he still can. He takes small, reluctant steps toward the operative, muttering that he can't stop. The operative brandishes his weapon again, barking another order for the man to stop. Before he can make another move, the stranger snatches the weapon out of his hand, opens his mouth, and swallows it. He winces as he does, but does not stop until the weapon is completely devoured. All at once, he lets out a loud belch, his knees buckle, and he slumps to the ground. He rubs his stomach, wipes his brow, and sighs heavily. "I'm so sorry about that. I was just so hungry I couldn't help it." The man shakes his head sadly. "I hope you can get a new weapon. And I'm sorry about your friend, too." "You said you couldn't help it. Why'd you stop?" The stranger shrugs, sighs again, and simply says, "Well, because I was full." After a bit of convincing, and a test confirming that the subject's strength and bite force has returned to ordinary human levels, the remaining mobile task force agreed to bring him into Foundation custody unharmed, though restrained. They pile into one of the SCP Foundation's trademark unmarked vans and set off toward the nearest Foundation site. About 1 hour into the trip, the subject begins to lament his growling stomach, asking if they could possibly stop somewhere for a bite to eat. Ordinarily, this is against protocol, but after what happened to their teammate, the task force members aren't taking any chances. They pull into a fast food drive-thru and permit the subject to order whatever he wants. They'll declare it as a business expense later. 5 burgers, 5 fries, 5 tacos, 5 pies, 5 cokes, 10 tater tots, 10 tenders, 5 shakes, 5 pancakes, 5 jalapeno poppers, and 5 baked potatoes later, the task force successfully reached the Foundation site with their newest subject, SCP-913. SCP-913 appears to be an average African-American man around middle age. Though his appearance is completely ordinary, his metabolism is unnaturally fast. He requires the recommended daily caloric intake for an average human being every 2 hours and has an unusually high internal temperature, though the specific number has been redacted from his official file. If he does not meet his calorie requirement for a given 2-hour period, he will enter a trance state in which he is unable to control himself. In this state, he will break down and ingest any solid matter in his line of sight. This includes matter that would ordinarily be indigestible, including wood, plastic, and metal. In this state, his appetite does not distinguish between living and non-living subjects. When he is in this hunger-driven state, he is aware of all his actions, but cannot stop himself, even when he eats dense materials that cause him extreme discomfort. If this state hits while the subject is sleeping, he will be forced awake. In addition to his anomalous appetite, SCP-913 can rend objects at an estimated force of 3,000 newtons and can bite objects with an estimated force of 5,000 newtons when eating them. Whenever he is not in his trance state, he cannot replicate this strength. An examination of SCP-913's liver tissue showed that it is capable of producing new enzymes in response to foreign material, allowing his body to digest matter that should be highly dangerous to consume. These enzymes metabolize the substrate at an efficiency of approximately 98%, detoxifying any drugs or toxins consumed by the subject during the hunger state or otherwise. This includes, but is not limited to, amnestics and anesthetics. When SCP-913 was first discovered, he was wearing a shirt and dress pants, both with the brand name Doctor's Orders sewn onto their tags. SCP-913 has no tattoos aside from one on his right calf, which reads, Mr. Hungry, from Little Misters by Dr. Wondertainment. Just in case you aren't aware, the Little Misters are a line of humanoid anomalies created by the mysterious Dr. Wondertainment Corporation, including the fish-headed Mr. Fish, the candy-coated Ms. Sweetie, and Mr. Life and Mr. Death, who is every bit as existentially upsetting as he sounds. The purpose of these creations is currently unknown, though, like many Dr. Wondertainment products, their existence invites endless speculation. SCP-913 must be contained in a customized humanoid containment cell lined with 1-meter-thick carbon steel. 913 is to be provided standard furnishings for his containment cell, coinciding with the usual necessities for a comfortable humanoid dwelling. He may be given pre-recorded entertainment materials, such as concerts, films, and television shows upon request. The cell may be accessed via a reinforced carbon steel door. Once every 2 hours, SCP-913 is provided with one nutritional supplement as specified in Document 913-2. I attempted to locate a copy of 913-2 for further details on said nutritional supplement, but access to it appears to be limited to researchers assigned to SCP-913. While the subject is sleeping, nutrition is provided to SCP-913 via a central venous catheter that must be changed once every 3 months. These measures allow SCP-913 to receive the calories that he needs to avoid entering a hunger state, ensuring the safety of everyone on site, as well as his own comfort. Like the rest of the Little Misters, SCP-913 presents a puzzle that may never be solved. I could spend my limited time on this Earth wondering why Dr. Wondertainment would create a being that seems to serve no purpose other than eating as much as possible, lest he unwillingly destroy the environment around him. But I believe that would be a waste of time. Why does Dr. Wondertainment do anything that they do? Why create a woman who can turn men into candy soldiers? Why create an ordinary man with a fish head, a tiny top hat, and a Boston accent? The personal motivations of Dr. Wondertainment, whether they are an individual or a massive conglomerate, are as inscrutable to me as the meaning of life itself, or the reasons why a person would want to eat more than 2 hot dogs in one sitting. Check out the DrBob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like Dr. Wondertainment's Custom Pets.